Hello, this is your friendly neighborhood shadow broker Lezs. Disclaimer. All the information I'm providing here and now, the rules, the guides, and how to, are simply just that. Guidelines on how to have dealings with a shadow broker, and also how to be one, how to go about it, and what to look out for, what to understand. So that way, if you involve yourself with shadow brokers, there are general guidelines that you can follow. Are these set in stone? Certainly not. And I do hope that they become a supporting pillar for what it takes to be a shadow broker and what the guidelines that shadow brokers do follow. Why is information important? Information is important because it allows you to get where you want to go. It's a means to an end. And this allows you to accomplish whatever tasks or goals or ambitions that you have. That's in real life and in Star Citizen. There's no difference there. Why buy information? Now, the reason why you would buy information is because information is really valuable. As a shadow broker, it's necessary for accomplishing whatever tasks you have, or a means to an end. I imagine most, if not all, shadow brokers will always have an underlying purpose or desire or reason, as being a shadow broker is a very dangerous place to be, and it's also very central and requires you to have a lot of interaction with many people and many dealings. It does require lots of work. Naturally, whatever our intentions are as a shadow broker, we do pour through our actions. Like a mercenary simply wants to have fun blowing shit up. Well, it's the same thing as a shadow broker, except maybe we want to move people around in different places and create conflict or chaos. Or maybe we want to help new people out and help them understand the game better. Whatever your intentions are. Buying information is also important because it helps prepare you for what may be to come. So you could be going into a dangerous area or sector and not know much of what's there. That's where you would go visit a shadow broker, if you don't have a friend who may know or may not know. And even then, more likely than not, a shadow broker will know much more about a sector that you've never been to than your friend may. So, instead of just going out there and exploring, now you'll be prepared for what's to come, even though you go and see the new sites that are coming your way. In Star Citizen, the effects of death are quite severe, so it's necessary to have someone who has the information. An intelligent person will always go out and find what they're looking for, but they will be well prepared for what's to come. And if you include what's happening with the SPS module, planet side, the brawling, and obviously the space flight and the dangers of space and dogfighting, then we can properly evaluate and see the true worth of information. What information can you provide? Now, this is pretty easy. I'm starting with the most simple thing and the most obvious, and also the most painful and costly: your death. If you die in a certain area or sector or in a certain way, if something happens to you and you can give the details of it, your death is worth a price. It's worth money. It's worth UEC. It's a profit to you. So even in your own death, that can be provided for money to pay you back in the end, and it adds up. The more detail you provide, the better. But I'll get into that later into the video. Other information that you can go about providing would be the location of, let's say, miners, the route they travel, all the little nitty-gritty details you can imagine that you may be involved in. Now, this information is not only useful for those who are seeking to put a stop, but to take part. It's great for new people, and also for those who want to dabble in something they've never done before. Shadow brokers are a wonderful way of getting into something that you've never done, and still having the information and knowledge to find what you're looking for. Instead of games like EVE Online, where it's difficult to get into every business, really, except mining. It's hard to be a pirate. You don't know how and how to get into it. But a shadow broker can direct you right to who you need to see, and they can pay the person who is your contact. But I'll get into that later as well. 5. How do you make a profit? Now, as a shadow broker, how do you make a profit is not really all that included in this video, but rather how your informant makes a profit. That would be possibly you, the listener of this video. Someone who just wants to play the game as a mercenary or a merchant or a pirate. All the information you provide can be worth a price. As an informant, you provide information about every little thing, and depending on the shadow broker you bring it to, it can really make the difference. Now, this question leads to many other questions, so we'll follow through. We're leading to question 6, details versus vague. Now, and the way that you make a profit is determined by the details that you provide. The more detailed your death is, the more money I can pay you. The more your information is worth, the more of a price it has, the more useful it is to me and those who I provide it to, or whatever means to an end that I may have, or others who may find use for the information may have. This could be information about miners going to a certain area. You know, the more detail you provide, such as miners that regularly mine this area for this ore. This is a common hotspot right here where miners usually go. And usually what do you find there? Auroras, caterpillars, reclaimers, what? Simple things like that, or what explorers may find out in the verse. You know, scavenging points and lost ships, things that people aren't using. This information isn't all that reliable, which leads to the next question. Is it reliable? How do you determine reliability? Well, you determine reliability by your client starting off. If you know them, how often you've had dealings with them, are they reliable, and how they've provided reliable information? Do they provide big things or little things, and how often do they do that? These sorts of little things make a big difference in how reliable the information comes from the person who is feeding you that information, your informant, or you, the informant. So the better you know your shadow broker, the better, and the more money you'll get from the information you'll provide. Now, this leads into other questions for the shadow broker, which I'll answer further into the video. Can you make assurances? This means that, can you guarantee this information? How? Leading back to question 6, details. Now, the more details you provide, the more solid, the more factual the information becomes. And if you can provide pictures and hard facts, then it is irrefutable, and this information now becomes much more valuable. Having a good relationship with your informant makes a very big difference. It changes the price of a little bit of information you're providing to money that you take in, because it changes the amount of money your information is worth, because there are things that you simply cannot cover for as a shadow broker, such as whether this information has been distributed to someone else. There are people out there who want to make a profit too, and I'm sure they're not going to only sell that information to just to you. So, because we can't make sure that they don't do these types of things, all we can do is deduct it from the price itself and the worth of the information. And to give it an idea of what that may be, 3 Aurora is being worth 120,000 UEC with all the information, with a decent amount of detail, would only come out to a profit of maybe 15 to 20,000 UEC to the informant, because it's vague or it's not detailed enough. There's no assurances. There's nothing there to say that these people will definitely be here. And there's a large cost out of my own pocket, not to mention if it's a trap. For those of you who do have questions and who don't understand, the idea is, if starting off, we'll be able to make small profits. And then it'll grow into a larger system as it develops further and the game develops an economy. So, if 15,000 UEC out of 120,000 potential UEC, not an actual 120,000, if that seems a waste of your time, then you don't understand how small profits add up. And we don't have a general idea of how quickly you can earn money in the universe. So please, have patience for what I do have to say. These variables can change based off of what happens and the economy and Star Citizen. So none of these things are set in stone. But I'm just giving a general understanding. Out of that potential amount, you're probably only going to be getting 10% of it, because of the cost and many other things. Moving on, covering your own ass. Now, as a shadow broker, when you buy information from an informant, you have to cover your own ass. How do you do this? How do you make sure that you don't get screwed over for that false information you bought for 15,000 UEC? That costs quite a bit. Well, as a general rule of thumb, we take the name of every informant. We need to know their name and whatever information we get out of them. Why is that? Because, first off, giving them money requires us to know their name. And secondly, if the information is bad or if it's a trap, that information is linked to that informant, regardless. So that way, if pirates get totally screwed over because the information was false and it actually led to a trap, that information tracks back to the informant. Such as saying, hey, your information is actually a trap, then your name is automatically put out there. It doesn't matter if there's confidentiality or not. I'll put your name out there for those to see. And not just that, I can hunt you down and make an example out of you if that's what I want to do as a shadow broker. Now, I do believe, and I will say this personally, I do believe that if you're given false information as a shadow broker, and then that information gets put out there into the verse, you are held accountable. Your reputation takes a hit. So, it's very important to make an example out of those who do that. And it's very important to understand that whoever does do that should be making an example out of. It hits your reputation, even if you're not killed. Even if you are not killed for that information, which you shouldn't be, because you are not the originator of that information. You still take a hit to your reputation as a shadow broker. Now, you can make up for it by providing compensation money, and on top of that, putting money into finding said person who provided false information, making more jobs, and ultimately bringing more people in on the hunt, and for killing that person and his group, possibly. Whatever you may facilitate. Now, this does create more conflict in the game, and it can be fun, renown. In this game, as a shadow broker, at least I intend to create a way in which shadow brokers provide renown in the game. Real life, player-to-player renown. This means that you'll know John the Baptist, or the Baron, whoever you may call it, whatever you may call yourself, and whatever you may do, because you go through the shadow broker and he provides the information from contact to contact, connecting you to other people and providing your services to people you've never met in the game, providing a player-to-player interaction that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get via game developers. Now, if I didn't already answer this question appropriately, how to make a profit, and is it reliable, the details, and can you make assurances, covering your own ass in relationships to your informant, and renowned, then let me make it simple. Let me summarize. As an informant, you make money from your shadow broker by providing information in detail. That information raises in price and cost, or rather, you gain more of a profit based off of your relationship with your shadow broker, how good the information is you provide, and in detail, your reliability, and generally how often your information follows through. This is what will determine how much of a profit that you make with your shadow broker. This also determines how reliable you are and what the assurances are, because you have nothing to worry about if your information is good. Not to mention, your relationship with your shadow broker will greatly improve, and as shadow brokers, we do give favors to those who are reliable and trustworthy. Doesn't matter what side of the faction you are. We are gray. We're not black and white, no matter how close we teeter to one side or the other. So, as shadow brokers, it is those who are loyal to us that we are loyal to. But a shadow broker should never actually belong to a faction or another group particularly. But this excludes spy organizations and informants and things along those lines. This means that you can belong to an organization that's about information, but you can't belong to an organization that's about killing people or pirating, because then we have a general idea of where that information goes and who it's used for. But if you belong to an organization that collects information and just does spying, you have no idea what's happening. Not to mention, the shadow broker becomes more powerful because they have access to a large database of information without having to go out of their way. So, this concludes my guide to buying information as a shadow broker and selling information as an informant, and the interaction between the two in the universe, and the necessity between the two, and how it should work. If you have any questions, leave so in the comments below, and subscribe. Thank you for your time, and as always, your friendly neighborhood shadow broker, Lezs.